Hello, I'm Benjamin Sullivan, and this is the first episode of my series, Ben's LAN Party and Retro Gaming. Since this is the first episode of this series, it's not going to be a very long one. For the most part, this episode will serve as an introduction to the series, where basically I'll explain what types of videos I'm going to create for this series, and I'm going to answer the famous question I get asked a lot: what is a LAN party? I understand that not everyone is familiar with what a LAN party is, and that's okay. And quite often when I'm with a group of people and we're having conversations and I mention, oh, I do LAN parties as a hobby, a lot of people go, oh, that's awesome, or I remember those days, but I also get a lot of, huh? What is a LAN party? Since this is the first episode of a video series about LAN parties, I feel like this is the perfect opportunity to answer that question. What is a LAN party? Let me start by explaining what a LAN is. A LAN, and that's LAN, not land, LAN as in L-A-N. A LAN is an acronym that stands for Local Area Network. A local area network is a computer network that allows multiple computers and devices to communicate with each other within a small geographical area, such as an office or a house. Most people already have a LAN in their house, they just might not know it. Do you have more than one computer in your house, and are they sharing the same internet connection? If yes, then you have a LAN. Do you have Wi-Fi in your home and are several different devices connected to it, such as your laptop, your cell phone, and maybe even your TV? If you answered yes, then you have a LAN. Specifically, that would be a wireless LAN. LANs can be wired, wireless, or a hybrid, which is a combination of wired and wireless devices on the same network. But whether your LAN is a wired, wireless, or a hybrid network, the concept is the same: to allow multiple computers and devices on that network to all communicate with each other. Now that you know what a LAN is, allow me to tell you what a LAN party is. A LAN party is a social gathering where people connect their computers or gaming systems together through a LAN specifically for the purpose of multiplayer gaming. Let me show you a quick video of a LAN party to give you an idea of what a LAN party looks like. Hey, looks like fun, right? Well, allow me to tell you a little bit more about LAN parties. LAN parties first became popular in the mid-1990s. Some of the first computer games that had LAN play, which helped make LAN parties popular, were Doom, Quake, Rise of the Triad, and Duke Nukem 3D. Now, those games also had the option to play online, but there was a problem. At the time, most people who had internet access in their home had dial-up modems because at the time, broadband internet was very expensive and was only available in certain areas. And dial-up connections, for the most part, were too slow to handle online gaming. Now, I can confirm this claim by personal experience because I had dial-up in the late 90s, and so did my cousin who also had dial-up. And we both had Duke Nukem 3D on our computers, and we used to link up and play together over the modem. And the thing is, even though we lived pretty close to each other, we lived in the same town, so we were only a few miles away, and it was just the two of us. But even when just the two of us were playing Duke Nukem 3D over the modem, it was only playable half the time. I mean, half the time it was fine, but the other half we would get severe lag, and we would even get out-of-sync messages on the screen. But we still had a blast, and it was still revolutionary for its time. And if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure that those old games like Duke Nukem 3D and Doom only allowed 2 players over a dial-up, which means you could only play with 2 players online, and if you wanted to have more than 2 players, then you had to be on a local network, basically a LAN party. I also remember when id Software first released the game Quake, the LAN play was amazing. And it was designed to be a LAN game. Now, Quake did have the option to play online, but the problem was it was so laggy over a dial-up network that it was almost unplayable. In fact, playing Quake on a dial-up was so bad that id Software had to rewrite the network code and then release a different version of the game called Quake World, which was designed to be played on a dial-up, and it definitely helped. It was better than the original Quake, but it still did not perform as well as if you were on a local network. Anyway, the point I'm making is that some of those older games did have internet play through dial-up, but it was so slow that it wasn't very ideal. So back then, if you wanted to do multiplayer on those games, it was much easier to just go to a LAN party and just link up with people on a local network because the performance was so much better than trying to play over dial-up. And that's basically how LAN parties became a thing. In the mid-2000s, high-speed broadband internet connections became more affordable and more readily available, and as they became more readily available, more and more people were leaving behind dial-up and switching over to broadband. With broadband, the fast connection speed made online gaming a much smoother and much better experience, and the convenience of being able to stay home and play online and not needing to disconnect your computer and take it anywhere just to do multiplayer basically caused LAN parties to start to fade away and become a thing of the past. Now, as someone who hosted LAN parties for years, and I still do from time to time, I can say from experience that I understand the convenience of just being able to play online and not having to go through the trouble of moving computers around and setting things up for a LAN party, but socially it's just not the same experience as when everybody is in the same room and everybody's playing together, and there was more to it than just playing games. Because I remember whenever we had LAN parties, most of the time people would bring their own computers. Not always, sometimes I would have extra computers that people would use, but most of the time when it came to LAN parties, people would bring their own computers over. So then not only were you playing games together, but as we were socializing, we would show each other our computers, like we would look at what games you had and what games I didn't have, and we would also share files with each other, and basically it just became such a social thing that there was so much more to it than just playing games. In a way, we kind of got to know each other and got to know each other's computers too. So basically, I created this series not only to keep the legacy of LAN gaming alive, but also to prove that LAN parties can still be a fun thing and they don't necessarily have to be a thing of the past. Another reason I decided to create this series was to provide useful information about LAN parties to others who might benefit from it. That way, if people want to host their own LAN parties, but they're new to LAN gaming and not quite sure where to start, they can come to my channel and watch their videos, and basically my videos will tell them everything they need to know. So the videos that I will create for this channel will include topics on things like which games to play, what equipment you need, how to start a gaming server, and other tips and advice to make your LAN party be as smooth and successful as possible. I will also use this channel to post any videos of any LAN parties that I have in the future. I remember back in the early 2000s, before the days of YouTube, I used to have some rocking LAN parties, but unfortunately, I never thought to take any pictures or videos of those LAN parties that I used to have, and looking back, I really wish I had. But, oh well. In addition to this being a video series about LAN gaming, I decided to throw some retro gaming into the mix as well. That's why the name of the series is Ben's LAN Party and Retro Gaming. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the term retro gaming, no worries, allow me to explain. So retro gaming, also known as classic gaming or old school gaming, is the collecting and playing of older video games and video game consoles from previous decades. Since a lot of retro computer games have LAN play, I decided instead of making a separate series just for retro gaming, I decided to bundle it with the LAN Party series as one series. As you can see, I still have my Game Boy collection from when I was a kid. I still have a Sega Dreamcast as well as a GameCube. I'm hoping all of these systems still work, so in the near future, I plan on hooking them up and seeing if they still work, and I'll make some videos out of those. If you look at the screens around me, they're playing gameplay videos from some of my all-time favorite games. Over here we have the original Quake, over here we have the original Tomb Raider, and behind me we have Duke Nukem 3D. Now, what do all three of these games have in common? Besides the fact that they're all classic games, all three of these games were released in the same year. Yes, they were all released in 1996. That means all three of these games are turning 30 years old this year. Therefore, I think 2026 is the perfect year to start a series about retro gaming. That way we can celebrate 30 years of all three of these classics. Well, thank you very much for watching this video. I know it was rather short, but that's because it was just the first episode, which is basically just an introduction to the series, but there will be more episodes coming soon. So stay tuned and have a great day, everyone.